Greetings, Mason Storm here. Today I was experimenting with the air fryer and attempting to make shawarma with it. This video kind of documents my process and how I made it. I thought it turned out pretty good, it was quite tasty. I would like to do this again and try things differently next time and see what works better. Either way, this is how I made it this time, so stay tuned. The chicken I decided to use was near its expiry date, so I didn't do a long marinade. Instead, I just did a bit of a rub. So I have 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika, and 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper powder. Big pack of chicken breast. To begin our process, we got our mixing bowl out here, and we're just going to combine our seasonings and spices. And once they're all in the bowl, we just kind of mix them up with a fork. If you're really spice averse, reduce the amount of cayenne pepper. Although I didn't think it was all that spicy. Next time I'll probably use more and do a marinade as well. So it's always that. And here's my air fryer. And it's not very tall, and I just wanted to get a measurement from the spit to the top because I don't want what I have in here to rub against that because that'll kind of dislodge everything, and just using a Coke can as a point of reference. Almost pierced the can on the pointy bit there. That could have been disastrous. But crisis averted. So now we get our cutting board out, and we need to cut our pieces to about the height of the Coke can so that we'll fit on the spit at the maximum size and not rub into anything. So I'm going to have to cut these pretty much in half or whatever to get that size or smaller. So to begin with, I cut the back portion of the meat off. The part that's kind of flapping in the breeze, and then I cut it into chunks that are close to the size that we want. And I cut off a little bit of extra fat on a couple of these pieces that had a little bit of excessive amounts. That seemed to work out pretty good. The other thing that might be worth doing would be to cut them in half lengthwise first. That we have thinner pieces, so they're not as thick as the ones I have here. But either way, it all cut up pretty good. And then we'll get our spice mix out and our spit. And I'm just going to take the one end off of there. And the procedure is going to be to kind of coat the meat in the spice mix, flip it over, coat it again, kind of rub it into the meat, and then we'll impale it onto the spit. And once we get one piece done, it's time to do another. And we're just going to keep doing that. Get the meat and the spices, rub it all in, and then put it on the spit. And we're just going to keep stacking our meat on the spit till we fill the entire thing up from one end to the other. It's pretty easy to do. And then once we get near the top, we need to get our little fork thing installed again. And that's kind of the end of the process as far as getting everything onto the spit. Now, something you may want to do is ram like a spike through all the meat, like adjacent to it. Like a shish kebab stick or something. That way it locks all of them in place and they can't free spin one from another, which didn't really happen to me, so I don't know if that's completely necessary or not. But I do have a lot of pressure holding the meat together so that it won't spin freely. And here I'm just kind of rubbing it in the spices that were left on the cutting board. And now it's time to throw it in the oven. And by oven, I mean the air fryer. So we're just going to insert it into the air fryer and make sure that the spit is connected to the motor. And then we'll stick our drip tray in. There's kind of a little bit of a long piece there. I just kind of pulled it off. It came off on its own, otherwise I was going to get a knife. And anyway, we'll start it up, and then we got to make sure that it's actually turning. And I'm going to have this on the rotisserie air fryer setting for about half an hour. That seemed to be enough time to kind of cook the outer edges of the entirety of the meat, as well as starting to cook towards the center. I don't actually know how long it takes to cook this thing, but this seemed to have worked, and the process was, but that was my attempt. And here we are now that that's done. So I'm just going to pull it out, and now we're going to kind of cut it up. So I'm just holding it with a towel on the end, and I'm trying to cut nice slices down the meat, which was easier said than done. It didn't cut the easiest, but it did cut. Now the trick to getting good shawarma is to have nice thin slices, but with the way this was made, and I don't know if it was my knife or what it was, but I didn't have the greatest luck getting thin slices, but I was able to lop off pieces of the chicken regardless. And I'm just going to do a perimeter cut. And so I just kind of cut down, turn it, cut down, turn it, until I get all the way around the entire piece of meat. And once I'm all the way around, then I'm going to stick it back into the air fryer and give it a second dose of cooking. And I think that's part of the trick to doing shawarma, is that it continuously cooks. And as it does, more and more meat gets shaven off. So the second batch, I put it in for another 10 minutes, and I took it out and I just kind of cut it all up. But probably the way to do it would have been to put it in 10 minutes, take it out, do like another fine shaving, and then cook it another 10 minutes, and then another shaving again, and you get nice thin slices of well done type of meat. And I kind of think too that probably using more dark meat would have worked better than using all this breast meat, but I'll try that out on my next adventure with the air fryer and attempting to make some form of shawarma. And right here I'm just making a wrap with the shawarma that I made, and got a little bit of tzatziki on there with the lettuce, and it tasted quite good. So if you've ever made shawarma in an air fryer, I'd like to know how you did it, because I didn't really see good answers online on how to make it, and this turned out pretty good and I really liked it, but I'm interested to see what other people do. If you like my content, feel free to like and subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome.